Welcome to the Deep Dive.
Great to be here.
Today, we're diving headfirst into a story that's really made some waves. Luca De Meo leaving Renault.
Yeah, quite a surprise move for many.
Definitely. And we've got a bunch of sources here, articles, different opinions, commentary, all trying to figure out what this means. Not just for him or Renault, but maybe, just maybe, for the whole European car industry.
It raises some big questions.
Exactly. So our mission, in this deep dive, is to unpack it all for you. Cut through some of the noise.
Right.
We'll look at De Meo's own reasons,
Mm-hmm.
the ones he's apparently given, including some pretty sharp critiques he seems to have made.
And then?
And then we pivot. Because there's another viewpoint in our sources, a really strong, almost opposing one, that sees his leaving as, well, something much bigger. A potentially bad sign for the entire sector in Europe.
A kind of canary in the coal mine situation.
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll lay out the key arguments from both sides so you can get a clearer picture of how this is being read.
Okay, sounds good. Where do we start?
Let's start with the man himself, Luca De Meo. For context, who is he right now in the European auto scene? The sources paint him as, well, pretty successful recently.
Yeah, he's generally seen as the guy who really helped relaunch Renault, turn things around there, completed a big cycle, as they say.
So if he's had this success, why leave now? What are his reported reasons?
Well, the main one seems to be a feeling of completion. Like, he did what he came to do at Renault.
Right.
There's a quote floating around in one source, something like, you reach a point where you know the work is done. That kind of sentiment, mission accomplished.
So, job done, time to move on.
Seems to be part of it. He also talks about wanting new professional challenges, looking outside the auto industry specifically.
And he feels Renault is okay without him.
Apparently so. But the sources say he believes he's leaving the company transformed, ready for the future. Good team, clear strategy in place.
So framed very much as a planned exit after a successful project, not jumping from a sinking ship in his view.
Not according to his narrative, no. And where he's going is also pretty telling. He's reportedly moving to the Kering Group.
Kering. It's luxury goods, right?
Yeah.
Fashion, Gucci, Saint Laurent, that kind of thing.
Exactly. A totally different world from cars and heavy industry.
Okay, that is a shift. How does he explain that specific move, according to the sources?
Well, it's fascinating. He apparently doesn't see it as, like, a betrayal of the auto world or anything.
No.
No. He frames it more like a return to a sector, luxury and fashion, where things like culture, design, beauty, they can still, quote, express themselves freely.
Implying they can't in the auto industry right now.
That seems to be the implication, yeah, without having to constantly justify their role or apologize for existing, which, suggests that's maybe how he felt things were becoming in automotive.
Interesting. So it's positioned as a strategic choice.
Very much so. The sources talk about it as strategic intelligence. He apparently said he didn't want to become the custodian of a stagnant system.
Wow. Stagnant system.
Yeah.
That's quite a label for European auto.
It is. So, from his perspective, this move is about finding new opportunities, growth, influence, but specifically away from an environment he seems to find, well, restrictive and problematic.
Okay, let's sum up this first view then.
Yeah.
De Meo says, mission accomplished at Renault, time for new challenges, and I'm strategically moving to luxury fashion because it offers more freedom than the current auto environment. Is that about right, based on the sources?
That captures his reported narrative pretty well, yes.
But, and this is a big but, the sources suggest this isn't just a personal career decision. It's being interpreted as carrying a broader and more critical message.
Right. It's not just about Luca De Meo moving jobs. It's potentially about the state of the entire European automotive industry.
What's the core of that message? What's his critique, reportedly?
Well, the sources describe him as perceiving an existential crisis in the European auto sector.
An existential crisis. That's strong language.
Yeah.
Is he blaming the shift to electric, the climate challenge itself?
No, and this is crucial to his reported view. He doesn't primarily blame the climate crisis for this existential threat.
Okay, so what does he blame?
According to the sources, he points the finger squarely at what he calls punitive and moralistic political management.
Punitive and moralistic, directed at the car industry.
That's the accusation reported. He feels this political approach has effectively delegitimized the social and industrial role of the automobile in Europe.
So it's less about the technology shift and more about a hostile political atmosphere.
That seems to be the core of his critique as presented. He feels this environment makes innovation suspect, something to be wary of, not encouraged.
And dialogue between industry and politicians.
He reportedly sees that as broken down, closed off, which obviously makes navigating a huge transition like electrification incredibly difficult.
Okay, so connecting the dots. His decision to leave is influenced by this bigger picture.
The sources certainly suggest so. He sees this uncertain and problematic future for the industry in Europe, heavily influenced by this political climate he describes.
And that makes jumping to a different sector, like luxury, seem like a smart move. A strategically intelligent escape, almost.
That's the implication drawn in the sources reporting his perspective. Yes, it's a way out of that specific context.
All right, so that's one side. Mission done, frustrated by the politics, seeking greener pastures elsewhere.
A clear narrative.
But now, let's switch gears completely. Because another source we looked at has a drastically different, much gloomier interpretation.
Ah, yes. The end is nigh perspective.
Pretty much. This view argues De Meo leaving means only one thing, and it's basically confirmation that European automotive is headed for disaster. It aligns with some pretty pessimistic takes this source has voiced before.
So what's the basis for this doom and gloom forecast?
The core argument is timing. They believe European automakers simply started the electric transition too late, way too late compared to the Chinese manufacturers and, of course, Tesla.
The first mover advantage argument.
Exactly. And there's sharp criticism here of past decisions. This source argues that instead of going all in on building really good electric cars right away,
What did they do instead, according to this view?
they claim funds and incentives were poured into refining combustion engines, meeting Euro 5, Euro 6, even now Euro 7 standards. Time and money spent on the old tech, essentially.
A critical mistake in their
A
eyes.
fatal one, potentially. They look at the current situation and say, look, big European players like Stellantis, VW, they're only just starting to sell EVs in serious numbers.
And the quality.
This source claims their current EVs are qualitatively inferior to the Chinese competition, or Teslas.
Ouch. Yeah. The argument is the Europeans are hitting all the early snags, quality issues, supply chains, the learning
Of
curve
the others?
are already traveling at speed. They sorted those problems out years ago, basically. They're iterating, improving, while Europe is still finding its feet.
And things like tariffs. Can they help?
This source is very dismissive of that. They argue no tariffs can really stop this now. The competitive gap in the product itself is just too big, in their view. It's not just about market access anymore.
So if that's the diagnosis, what's the prognosis? What does this source predict for the future?
It's stark. They predict the European car market will eventually be dominated by Chinese brands, plus Tesla, and interestingly, Toyota.
Dominated. And the famous European brands, Mercedes, BMW, VW, Renault, Stellantis.
This view suggests they'll just continue to lose their market share. They're painted as either victims of unstoppable forces or maybe even accomplices in their own downfall due to those past strategic errors.
The dibs are accomplices. That's quite the framing.
It is. And to hammer home this point about failing to adapt, they bring up historical parallels.
Like what?
Like Olivetti, the Italian tech giant. This source says they disappeared when personal computers arrived because they didn't pivot.
Right. I remember Olivetti.
And Nokia. Same story, they argue, with the first smartphones. Huge company, dominant then. Gone, essentially, because they missed the shift.
So they're saying European auto is the next Nokia.
That's the explicit comparison made in this source. Powerful incumbents failing to grasp a fundamental technological disruption.
And they contrast Europe's past dominance in combustion engines
Where Europe dictated terms for 150 years,
with the current EV situation.
where, according to this source, there's not even a minimal comparison. Europe isn't leading. It's struggling to keep up.
And they use some pretty vivid examples to illustrate this gap, don't they? This source, I mean.
Oh, yeah. Almost over-the-top examples. They paint this picture of Europe still wrestling with Euro 7 petrol cars and the 2035 combustion ban.
Wild.
While they claim in America and China, you've already got EVs that drive themselves, find parking alone. Even more futuristic stuff, like cars that can supposedly take off or float and move in water.
Okay, some of that sounds a bit sci-fi, maybe referring to prototypes or specific models.
Sure, but the point they're making is about the perceived gap in ambition and technological progress. Europe's focus seems stuck, while others are pushing boundaries, at least in this narrative.
Got it. So bringing it back to De Meo,
Yeah.
how does his departure fit into this pessimistic view?
For them, it's the final piece of evidence, the ultimate confirmation. If a top manager like De Meo is heading for the exit,
Then it must be really bad.
Exactly. It's seen as concrete proof that the end of European automotive dominance is not just possible, but close. His leaving validates their entire negative outlook.
Okay, wow. Two very, very different reads on the same event.
Absolutely. De Meo's personal strategic narrative versus the industry is doomed narrative.
So let's try and synthesize this for you, the listener. What does it all mean? On one hand, we have De Meo's reported story, finished the job, frustrated by the politics stifling the industry, making a smart move to a freer sector.
And on the other, this stark view. His leaving is the ultimate red flag, proving the European auto industry missed the boat on EVs, is falling hopelessly behind, and is facing decline.
The tension seems to be, is his move a calculated choice because he sees the writing on the wall for the industry? Or is his departure itself the writing on the wall, a symptom confirming the decline is already happening?
That's a great way to put it. Cause or effect? Or maybe a bit of both.
It's interesting, though, even with these opposing conclusions, some common themes emerge from the sources, don't they?
They do. Both perspectives, in different ways, touch on the challenging relationship between the industry and policymakers in Europe. That seems to be a shared concern.
Right, and both acknowledge the sheer difficulty of this electric transition. It's a massive undertaking.
And the competitive pressure. Whether Europe can recover or not, both views recognize the intense heat coming from China and Tesla. That's undeniable.
So why should you, listening to this, care? We're talking about one executive changing jobs, right?
Well, it's much bigger than that. This isn't just boardroom drama. We're talking about the future of a colossal industry in Europe.
Yeah, one that impacts millions of jobs, national economies, innovation, and frankly, how most of us get around.
If you own a car, plan to buy one, work in a related field, or are just interested in these huge industrial shifts, this matters. Understanding these clashing views on where European auto is heading is pretty crucial.
It really highlights the immense challenges established industries face when technology and politics shift so dramatically.
Absolutely. It's a case study happening in real time.
Okay, so to recap briefly, we've heard De Meo's perspective, as reported mission complete at Renault, moving away from a restrictive political climate. And we've heard the counter-narrative, his departure, signals the inevitable decline of a European auto industry that adapted too slowly.
Two distinct interpretations presented in our source material.
Which leaves us with a final thought, something for you to chew on.
Hmm.
How should we view Luca De Meo in this story? Is he a captain prudently abandoning a ship he sees taking on water due to external forces like that political climate?
Or maybe a visionary stepping away because he believes the system itself, the political and industrial complex in Europe, is the real obstacle to progress, more so than just the market shift.
And does his leaving really confirm that European automotive's fate is sealed? Or is this industry, despite the challenges highlighted, still capable of pulling off a comeback, finding an unexpected turn in the road ahead?
Lots to think about there.
Indeed. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into Luca De Meo's departure and what the sources suggest it might mean.
Thanks for listening.
If you found this interesting, or if there's another topic you'd like us to dive into, please do consider submitting it to the channel.
And yeah, if you like this deep dive, giving it a like always helps.
Definitely. Until next time.